Assalamu alaikum and good morning everybody. I am Miss Tehseen Mistry, uh, the English teacher from Anjuman I Islam's A.A.K English Secondary School, and I welcome you all to our school YouTube channel. So this week we are going to discuss another very interesting, very simple topic of English grammar uh, for Standard 9, and the topic would be revealed soon. So let us get started. Now, when we talk of sentences, what do you know of a sentence? I want to ask you, what is a sentence? So, when we ask a question like this, the answer that we usually get is a sentence is a group of words. But there is little more to the definition of a sentence. So, here is the answer. A sentence may be defined as a group of words that contains a subject and a predicate and expresses a complete thought. So, definitely, a sentence is a group of words, and this sentence or this group of words, when they are arranged together, they will have two parts. One would be the subject, and the other would be the predicate. And when we read the entire sentence, we can understand the complete meaning. So, this is the basic definition of a sentence. So, from the definition, we can decode the structure of the sentence as well. So, the structure of any sentence is the first part of the sentence is the subject. After the subject, next follows is the verb, that is our action word, and after the action word we have the object. So these are the three important parts of a sentence, and when they are arranged in this order, they give a complete meaning to that sentence. So students, please remember the structure or the framework of any sentence is: first comes your subject, followed by the verb, and after the verb finally we have our object. For example, here is our first sentence: the baby is smiling. Now let us bifurcate the words into the subject and the predicate category, or we can say the subject, verb and object parts of the sentence. So what did we just see? We saw that the sentence always begins with the subject. So definitely this entire word here, the baby, is the subject. And after the subject we saw that we have the verb. So is smiling becomes the predicate or the verb of the sentence, the action word. So since in this sentence we have the subject and we have the predicate, when we read the sentence it gives a complete meaning. The baby is smiling. Let us look at another sentence. Since in this sentence we only have the subject and we have the verb. But what about the object? So let us look at the second example. I have a parrot. So again we come to bifurcation of the sentence. So remember, the sentence begins with the subject. So here this word here, I, which is a pronoun, is the subject. After the subject we have this verb have. So have is the verb, and after the verb we have a parrot. So we have seen the structure: subject, verb, and finally comes your object. So in this sentence we have the proper three parts. We have the subject, we have the verb, and we also have the object. then where is the predicate here? So students, remember, the verb and the object together form the predicate of your sentence. Or if you have sentences like the first one, the verb alone can be called the predicate. We usually add an object to certain sentences if and only if with the subject and the verb the sentence sounds incomplete. For example, if we say I have, so this is an incomplete sentence. In order to give a complete meaning to this sentence, we have added a group of words after our verb, and that is a parrot. So now that we have I have a parrot, we have the subject, we have the verb, and we have the object, then the sentence sounds complete and meaningful. So in this case, in the second example, the verb and the object together form the predicate. Whereas in the previous sentence, despite of the absence of the object, we have the subject, the baby, and we have is smiling, which is the verb. Still, when we read this sentence, we do not find an object here, but the sentence is a complete sentence. We can understand the complete meaning of this sentence. So since we can understand the meaning of the sentence only with the subject and the verb in place, we do not require an object here, and so the verb itself becomes the predicate in this sentence. So I hope we have understood that every sentence compulsorily will have a subject, it will have a verb, but the object would be added to sentences which sound incomplete. So subject and verb are the mandatory parts of every sentence. So I hope we have understood the basic definition of a sentence. A sentence is a group of words, and these words are divided into the subject and the predicate subunits. When you read the subject and predicate together, you understand the complete meaning of the sentence. From the definition, we came to the structure of the sentence. So every sentence will have the subject, which comes first, followed by the verb, which is your action word, and after the verb, in certain cases, you may or may not add the object. Then we also saw two examples. First example where we had only the subject and the verb, and the second one where we had the subject, the verb, and the object. So now moving ahead, basically on the basis of this structure, we have classified sentences into two types, or you can say we have come up with two ways of classifying sentences. The first is according to the use. How do we use a sentence in our day-to-day communication? That is the first criteria. And the second is according to the form. How have we framed the sentence, or how have we created that sentence? So this becomes your second form. Now in today's topic, we are going to focus on the first part, that is how are sentences classified according to their use. So basically, according to use, sentences are classified as: first is a declarative sentence, the second is an interrogative sentence, the third is an exclamatory sentence, and the last is imperative sentence. So according to the use, the way we use sentences in written or spoken communication, we have come up with 4 different units of sentences: declarative, interrogative, exclamatory, and imperative. And together, all 4 of them form the types of sentences. So here, the first classification or the first group of sentences is the types of sentences. These types of sentences are created based on their use in written or spoken communication. And under types of sentences, we have four major types: declarative, interrogative, exclamatory, and imperative. Now let us see what each one of them actually conveys. So first we begin with a declarative sentence. A sentence which states or declares something, or one that states a fact, is called a declarative sentence. Any sentence which declares any incident, or any sentence which states a fact, a reality, is called a declarative sentence. Now every declarative sentence, or for that matter every sentence, starts with a capital letter, but in the case of a declarative sentence it usually ends with the punctuation, that is a full stop. Now let us see or understand declarative sentences better with the help of examples. The first is, the students are playing. So from this image we have framed this sentence. In the image we can see that there are a few students who are playing football. So in the sentence we have exactly mentioned what we observe, and that is, the students are playing football. So we are declaring something that we have observed. Here this sentence starts with a capital letter and it ends with a full stop. So this falls under the category of a declarative sentence. Look at the second example. The sun rises in the east. Now in this we don't observe the image, but this is a reality. It's a fact and we cannot change it. So we are stating a reality, we are stating a fact, and since we are just telling the fact as it is, this sentence falls under the category of a declarative sentence. So remember students, whenever you have a sentence which declares something that you have observed, or a sentence which states a reality, then such sentences come under the category of declarative sentences. Declarative sentences, or for that matter every sentence, begins with a capital letter, but specifically declarative sentences, they end with a full stop only. So this was the first type of sentence. Now let us move to the second one. The second is interrogative sentence. So to interrogate means to ask a question. So from this we can say interrogative sentence is a sentence that asks a question, right? So every sentence where you find a question being asked, you can easily say that it is an interrogative sentence. Again, these sentences, because they are focusing more on questions, they usually start with any WH type of word, but they end with the punctuation, that is a question mark. Okay, now let us see this with the help of examples. Did the child eat his dinner? Now here in this sentence we are asking a question. We are trying to interrogate somebody. We are trying to collect information about a specific child. So since we are asking a question in this sentence, we say that this is interrogative sentence. Similarly, how do you feel? Again here we are asking about somebody's well-being, how somebody is feeling. So here again, since we are trying to interrogate or we are trying to collect information, we are asking a question, and therefore this sentence again falls under the category of an interrogative sentence. So I hope Interrogative sentences and declarative sentences are clear with all of us. Moving ahead to the third type of sentence, which is exclamatory sentence. So now when we talk about exclamatory sentences, a sentence which expresses a sudden or a strong emotion or feeling such as happiness, sadness, fear, anger, surprise, or excitement is called an exclamatory sentence. So, any sentence where there is an expression of a sudden feeling or a sudden emotion, like suddenly you feel happy about something and you express it. Suddenly you hear something and you feel sad about it. You are fearful about something. You get angry suddenly. You get a surprise. You get excited on hearing any news. Then these sudden emotions or these sudden feelings come under the category of exclamatory sentences. An exclamatory sentence cannot be a single word. You cannot say words like wow, hooray, oh no. They are exclamatory sentences. They are not sentences. They are exclamatory words. For a sentence, remember students, we need to have the subject, the verb and the object in place. So one single word cannot be a sentence. So definitely when you have words that express your sudden emotions, you cannot say that that single word is an exclamatory sentence altogether. This is something that we need to remember. And here again, the exclamatory sentence ends with the punctuation, that is the exclamatory mark. So let us see this with the help of examples. The first is help, the house is on fire. Now if you read the sentence carefully, in this entire sentence, this word help indicates that sudden feeling of fear. But this single word cannot be an exclamatory sentence. You need to give a specific justification for that emotion. So help continued by the house is on fire and finally ending with the exclamation. This entire thing here comes under the category of exclamatory sentences. Similarly, what pretty flowers. So that sudden feeling of happiness when you look at something very pretty or beautiful. So here it says, what pretty flowers. Again, we have a complete sentence here ending with an exclamation mark, and therefore this comes under the category of exclamatory sentences. Right? Now finally moving to the fourth type of sentence, which is imperative sentences. So now a sentence that expresses a request, a command or an order is called an imperative sentence. So sentences where you express a command, where you are giving a command to somebody, where you are giving an order to somebody, or where you are making a request, such sentences fall under the category of imperative sentence. Now in imperative sentences, the subject is not mentioned. You do not have the subject directly written or spoken, but it is understood that we are talking to somebody specific. Only the predicate is mentioned in imperative sentences. So here in imperative sentences, the subject may or may not be written or spoken directly about, but the verb, the action followed by the object at times would be clearly mentioned. So that is something that we need to remember. So here, for example, please come in. Now here this word please, it indicates a request. But here if you look at the sentence, we do not have the subject directly. We are not talking about whom we are making the request to. Here the subject is absent, but still since we have a word which indicates a request, we have the action word as well. We say that this sentence is an imperative sentence. Similarly, keep quiet. Here in this sentence again, we do not have the subject directly mentioned, right? But still, this sentence indicates a command or an order that we give to somebody. So this sentence indicates a command and therefore it comes under the category of imperative sentences. So, what have we discussed today? We have first discussed about what are sentences. So, sentences are group of words. These group of words are divided into two parts, subject and predicate. Then we said that when you arrange the subject and predicate in the proper order, then the sentence should give a complete meaning. After the discussion of definition of a sentence, we moved on to discuss about the structure of a sentence, which we all have to remember throughout. Every sentence will start with a subject, followed by your action word, and finally it may or may not have the object. So the action word alone can be the predicate, or where you have an object attached, the verb and the object together form the predicate. So the subject and predicate are in place. Then we moved on to discuss that sentences are classified based on two different criteria, and today we have discussed specifically about how sentences are classified according to their use. The way we use sentences in our day-to-day communication, we have divided sentences into the first category, which is types of sentences. Under types of sentences, we saw that there are four main types. The first is a declarative sentence. The second is interrogative sentence. The third is exclamatory sentence. And the last one is imperative sentence. So declarative sentences are sentences which state something that you have observed or which talks about a reality. Second was interrogative sentence. Sentences where you ask a question are interrogative sentences. Third was exclamatory sentence. Sentences which indicate a sudden emotion or a sudden feeling are exclamatory sentences. And finally, we have imperative sentences, sentences where you request or you give an order or a command to somebody are imperative sentences. So I hope that we all have understood the first classification of sentences, and it is pretty much easy if you correlate every sentence with the four definitions. So thank you all of you for joining today, and I see you in the next week. Take care and bye.